let's just see. Do you want to see how that looked? Or should we just roll?
I think we can roll.
Okay, let's just roll. All right, so do we want extracted or unedited?
Ooh.
You want to try extracted?
Yeah, I kind of
like. I like extracted too. Okay,
I like both, but
all right. So this will be Shannon Boyles extracted.
Okay.
Now this is episode 1 of Shannon Boyles extracted, where I have this issue, and then you have this issue where we have these stories we want to write, but it's hard to organize in our busy brains. And sometimes when I do write, it seems not great. It's just choked. It's, I'm tightening the words too much. It's people over the years who would read my blog and they're like, oh, it was okay, but I love that part where you were just you. And I'd be like, oh God, what does that even mean? And I think though, this is a good opportunity to organize the stories.
Yeah.
And hopefully have us just be us.
And try to be more succinct, because I think I get a word soup going, and I don't mean to.
Oh, dude, just as you just experienced, one of my sentences will have 5 parentheticals.
But you're so good with that.
You're very sweet. So
okay,
what's going to happen here is episode 1 of Shannon Boyles Extracted is going to we're going to start at a year where you want to start, and we'll just start. I'll interview you about this, and we're going to get this story down. Your story is incredible. The fact that you're sitting here is pretty
I can't die.
marvelous. And not just that I like you and I think it's great you're in my basement, because I've been here alone for 4 years, but but it's really remarkable.
And I think that was the thing we were talking about, is like what you've been through and what I've been through, but yet we come back to this, like our calling of like wanting to make people laugh and wanting to share, painfully hilarious stories with others.
Well, that's what we do. Like, I was just at a shoot, and the guy who was with me kept telling the clients, a video shoot, and he's like, he kept doing that little disclaimer thing with everything I would say.
Oh gosh.
And I didn't mean to be funny. I wasn't trying to be funny, but he kept saying, oh, he's a comedian. Literally is. I'm like, you don't need to
you don't say it all the time.
But that's where we're at. And I'd like to just make it as real as possible. We don't have to be funny. We don't have to be dramatic. We don't have to be tragic.
It just comes out.
So now this is episode 1, Shannon Boyles Extracted. There's a couple notes that you need to know here.
Okay.
Is next week going to be episode 1, Jared?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to alternate, and we're going to gamify it, because anytime anyone needs an edit that wants to edit out something, the other person gets a point.
Yep.
Okay. So right now it's 0-0.
It's 0-0. And do we want to at least take a 30-second establish like how we know each other? Or I mean, and I'm not saying go all the way back to Fort Lewis years, but it's like, I wonder if it makes sense to say real quick, we've been friends.
Yeah, and I think it's really optimistic that you said 30 seconds. But anyway, yeah. No, okay, so how do we know each other?
Are we rolling?
Yeah.
Okay. We met in college in 1992. Mm-hmm. We were both freshmen at Fort Lewis College. Mm-hmm. And you were the big man on campus that made everyone laugh. And in getting to know you, we quickly realized we had the exact same birthday of 7/7/74, which is just unheard of. And ever since, I've been your biggest fan.
It was, it was wild that we had the same birthdays, and here your dad was in radio and we were in radio, and that's what I was going to do. There was no doubt. There was no other answer. And I didn't even know that when I went to Fort Lewis. I went to play football there, of all things.
Wow.
Quickly disabused of that. Or I was abused and therefore disabused of that notion, and then ended up in radio. But I won't get into that until my time. And then we didn't we knew each other. I didn't see you a lot, but I guess at parties and stuff.
At parties, and then I'd see you around campus filming, and then I think you totally just, at graduation, you had the whole place in stitches. You unzipped your graduation gown, and you were known as the superhero on campus, and sure enough, you had shaved the superhero initial into your chest hair and had a cape on, and it just totally slayed the entire audience. It was great.
It's weird. I don't even know why that was. I don't know what that was.
Well, it's funny because you were part of the TV kind of crew of students, and I was more in the radio, and I was in an 8-person improv comedy sketch group.
The Shovel,
the 515 comedy shovel. and we would do our shows live on KDUR, and out of the window from the radio station onto the campus, I would see you and Todd Calvert running around setting up shots, and always just thought like, wow, what are they doing? That looks really interesting. And 30 years later, I'm watching you just do amazing things, and you're still cracking people up.
Well, you're very nice. And again, Shannon, who is always very complimentary to me. This is going to be about her today. Well, let's just get into it.
Okay.
What year is it?
We graduated in 96, so let's jump ahead to July of 2000.
Okay, so 2000, I'm in Colorado Springs.
Yep.
And pissing off focus on the family and somehow maintaining a job in radio. And you are here doing what?
I was in Denver. I worked for Clear Channel, and I was a promotions director. And then I went and worked for a music promoter. And so I was just kind of living that life. And I think we were both 26 years old. And I had an opportunity to buy a condominium and have my first home. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that was the greatest. And so
I thought you were the greatest because you were getting into radio. You were bought a condo close to downtown.
Yeah, it's downtown.
And here you are, 26.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's amazing. Like, she's living everything. And at the time, were you a roller derby girl yet?
Not yet, but that was coming.
We'll get there. Oh, yeah. See, that's a tease.
That's a tease.
That's a professional broadcaster right there, folks. The roller dolls, right?
Actually,
I always get that wrong.
It's okay. There's two leagues, Rocky Mountain Roller Girls.
Right, but the cooler league was you.
Right.
And anyway, so that's not happening yet. But I mean, I looked at your life and I was like, wow, that's great. Like, that looks fun.
Wow.
Especially the condo downtown thing. And how are you feeling? Are you feeling what I'm seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I was a large and in charge girl most of my life, so I was very heavy. And other than that, I was a happy camper. I mean, I had great friends and kick-ass condo.
Let's dive into the heavy. Yeah. I don't think you were very heavy.
I was fat my whole life. Do you know that there's a 90-pound difference in me from today to before I joined roller derby? I was 210 pounds.
Right. You've been dragged by the drunken corvair of life. Right. That's one reason. I mean, you lost a lot of weight because you were dying.
And missing body parts.
Body parts. We can't, another tease. Total pros. But let's talk about that. So,
okay.
I'm seeing you living the dream. Are you haunted by the weight at this time?
Yeah, I think my whole life, because people would be like, oh, you have such a pretty face if you would just lose weight.
Oh, God, who's saying this to you?
All these people. And like, now as an adult, I meet men that love heavy set women, and I don't know where they were throughout my whole life, but yeah. So there I am. I'm living in this really killer top floor condo in downtown Denver, and within 3 years, I start to have insane medical issues. Mm-hmm. Never putting it together that my home could be making me sick.
No, so wait, when you get into medical issues, right when you move in? Or?
No, it took 3 years.
3 years, okay.
Yeah.
But in that 3 years, from 2000 to 2003, it's good.
I don't know if it was good. I think that I was, I partied a lot and was working, and so I guess I thought that everything was good to go.
Yeah, and I'm gonna just keep, for lack of a better word, I'm gonna keep grinding on some details here because I think you're gonna want these, and I think they mean a lot to people. Like you mentioned, your face is so pretty, I wish you'd lose weight. I grew up with not the Karen of grandmas, but the grand dawn of Karens, and she couldn't stand it when I put on a little weight after I quit football. She actually told my sister. She was with two of her friends, and she told my sister to her face, "I wish you're so funny. I wish you could look like those two, though."
Oh.
Like, this was a very difficult woman, as far as standards went. So, I went through that too. I wasn't even that heavy, but I was called tubby and bubble butt and bullied. This merciless. I mean,
like, I still can't put a swimsuit on. Like, I would be the girl with the swimsuit and the t-shirt, and then would dive in the water and could hear the kids calling me Bubbles and Fat Ass and all the names, and then I just wanted to die and sink to the bottom of the deep end. But I always came up for air.
I'm going to hit on this for a little bit because it's really important. Like, I was super self-conscious, and it just like there wasn't a lot of heavier people around, and I just was husky, like big bone, and people would just murdered me, like like abused. And became very self-conscious. Are you at this age? Are you at you're 26, 27, 28. Are you self-conscious?
Very, yeah. Because even when we were in college, I was at a party with a bunch of guys, I think my junior year, and this one guy was wasted and told me I was too fat to F. And that has like just stuck with me. You know, and I always thought like, man, like the things that people say to each other, whether you're drunk or sober, you know. And I also had a parent that was always on me about my weight. And, you know, I know that they thought that they were doing what they felt was best, but that stuff messes with you.
You know, my dad's dead, and I guess it's kind of nice in a way. I'm not going to edit that because there's so many things that, you know, he was a great guy. He was revered as a hero and stuff, but he just said stuff that was so dangerous. You know, and one time I got beaten up pretty bad in Longmont. When I was visiting my grandma, and these three guys got me pretty good.
I never knew that story.
Oh man. And I put up a pretty good fight, but I was riding my bike by myself, and they started chasing me around, calling me Bubble Butt. And, you know, and then one of them tried to wreck my bike. Anyway, got ugly. And I went home, and I told my dad, and he said, you know, don't worry, I'll never call you Bubble Butt. And like 2 days later, he's like, hey, Bubble Butt, give me that wrench. And I was just like, man, like that matters.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be the kid that it mattered, but it did.
Yeah.
Especially when I get my ass kicked, like everywhere I went. And is prominent. Anyway, so I just know that this matters. And one reason it really pisses me off is you're going to start getting sick. And to me, I want you to enjoy those years before that.
Right. I mean, even when I was husky, I was like, I had all my body parts. I thought I was healthy. But yeah, I mean, I think that our parents can say things to us where they might think it's not as bad as it is, but then like the trauma and the never-ending tapes in your mind. But I also think that those are the types of things that mold people into being really funny, because they come out of life and their childhood with a bountiful amount of trauma and being teased and bullied. I was bullied so bad in 7th grade, I had to switch schools. But I was hiding in the bathroom at lunchtime from these girls that bullied me. And I think I had a bit of a panic attack and a nervous breakdown in the 7th grade and didn't know it. Yeah. So anyway.
Well, no, and it's okay. Don't jump around because I from this. I know. Maybe I should. Maybe I'm dwelling. You probably want to edit.
No, it's
but
fine.
I mean, I am just painting this picture of this 20-something single woman in this city.
Thought that she had it made.
But I just want to know that it was good, right? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, that's out of the trauma.
Yeah.
And because I would see you at a party or something occasionally, and it's like, my God, that's Boyles. she's just so funny and fun.
Right.
That wasn't a front, was it? Was it a front?
No. And I mean, like when I came to your wedding, I mean, I had a blast. And anytime I would see you, you'd have me laughing immediately, and I was always smiling because I'm like, here's my cosmic twin, my brother from another mother. And no matter what I was going through, you would always be able to put a smile on my face.
So in 2000, professionally, are you where you want to be?
No. It was right as Y2K happened.
Yeah.
I'm working for a concert promoter.
Or didn't happen.
Yeah. And these folks want to sue my previous employer, Clear Channel, for this massive payola lawsuit that ended up going through years later. But my boss would secretly tape record all my phone conversations with Clear Channel employees to get evidence for the lawsuit. And I couldn't be their Linda Tripp. My dad worked at Clear Channel. I wanted my reputation.
I like that. I don't know if people heard that reference. I couldn't be their Linda Tripp.
Yeah.
Who was Monica
Lewinsky.
Bill Clinton scandal. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
She was getting tapes for.
She was taping her phone calls with Monica Lewinsky.
Like getting information. She was supposed to be your friend.
Yeah.
And anyway, I love that reference. You didn't want to be their Linda Tripp. So this is really happening.
This is, and I think that was one of the most stressful situations before I got sick in my life at that time. And I went home, I called my dad, and we got on the phone with the family lawyer, and I was like, here's what's going on. And they were like, you got to get out. And so I gave my notice, and turns out Alice Cooper was opening a sports bar music venue in Denver within months, and I landed that marketing gig and went that way, but was pretty mortified about I was being tape recorded without my knowledge.
So your employer is tape recording your calls with Clear Channel.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of personal calls, right?
Yeah, so it's like, people that I knew who I would call and say, I want to make a buy on KBCO for,
a certain concert coming up.
Yeah, a certain concert coming up or whatever.
Is your dad at Clear Channel at this point? And
yeah.
your dad's at Clear Channel.
And he's the number one AM morning guy. Yeah. And I'm trying to do promotional added value deals for ticket giveaways and meet and greet the band and all these things on the FM stations. And what was interesting was Clear Channel was trying to start their own concert division at the same time. So when the people I worked for would put in a bid on an artist, Clear Channel would call and say, if you play the competitor's concert, we're not going to spin your tracks on the air. And that's what set up this massive payola, pay-for-play lawsuit that I wanted nothing to do with.
And did they ever use your calls as evidence?
I don't know, because everything was sealed, but I left pretty quick. And I never gave consent, right? So now in the days of like privacy and all these things, that would have been something you could sue for, I think.
Yeah, is Colorado a one-party state?
Yeah, as long as one person knows that they're...
So nobody knew, though?
No.
That's a violation.
And the day that I found out, so there was like this old Victorian house downtown where we had the office, and I was like in an old bedroom, and then my boss there was a closet door between my office and his, and one day that door was open, and the receptionist announced on the intercom that one of the reps from, KBPI was on the phone for me. And as I picked up my phone receiver and looked out the door at my boss, I see him press play and record on this tape recorder rig thing he has on his phone.
Oh my God.
And I went, like the light bulb went off, and I'm like, they're taping me.
Did you confront?
No, because I wanted to make sure I had, like, that's really what I saw.
Right, yeah.
And yeah, they were.
Oh God.
And so...
Okay, wait, I just want to point out that this show is called Extracted, and it's a good reason, because you wanted to bounce ahead.
I did.
To getting poisoned by your apartment. Teas, pros.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we're pros. But this is huge. This is what's happening in the healthiest, your healthy days, the halcyon professional days. This is what you're dealing with.
My husky, halcyon, healthy days. This is the kind of stress I was in. So, like I said, I go to work for Alice Cooper. We open up this amazing venue in May of 2001. And as you remember, 9/11 happens, and Alice Cooper's place gets shut down, and, the world is different as we know it. And then within a couple of years, I was beginning to have really bizarre health issues.
Yeah. So when did you work at Alice Cooper's place?
From May of 2001 until November 2001.
So was that the one where people were intentionally rude to you? Or no, the restaurant?
Yeah, actually, yeah, because it was a restaurant and a sports bar.
Was it called Dick's Last Resort?
No, but I never worked at Dick's, but I knew about Dick's. This was called Alice Cooperstown. And,
right. It would have his name in it.
Yeah. But it was way cool. Alice is a nice guy. He had the coolest memorabilia that was signed and autographed all over the walls. And his business manager never paid taxes. So the IRS came in and seized everything, and they ended up having this massive tax sale on like signed George Foreman gloves and like just one of a kind collector's items.
Is that what happened to this job?
To that Alice Cooper job. Yeah.
So you just tried to breeze over this, and if I'm reading your book, I want to know these things. Okay. So you have this. Did you like the job?
I did.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And Alice Cooper's your boss?
Well, two levels up.
Yeah.
But his name's on the building. He came to Denver to do the opening. I drove him and his wife and his daughter around. The nicest man.
Yeah.
So humble. Just a lovely guy. And we ended up shutting down Blake Street downtown, and Alice did a free concert for Denver. So he was playing, all of his biggest hits like School's Out for Summer and, all your favorite.
Never let this woman try to skimp on a story. Just don't. She wants to move forward. She wants to get to the mold, but I'm not going to let her. Okay, we're pulling people in here.
That's right.
And this is incredible. So Tell me more about and I don't want to pick on Alice Cooper, but this wasn't his fault. This was his money guy.
Yeah. So he had this manager guy who lived in
It's
Arizona.
always a manager
I
guy.
know.
If I'm watching VH1 Behind the Music, if that's still a thing, it's always a manager guy. Yeah.
And this guy was married with a family, but he'd come into Denver and didn't act married.
Oh.
And, was going out and making deals and seeing people. And, we were always busy, and I always thought it was doing well and making money. And then right after 9/11, they shut it down. Too bad. Yeah.
9/11, that was, I think Gen X was so very awake. And we were in our 20s. In that 90s period was such a peacetime.
Yeah.
The Soviet Union has fallen in 88, 89. And then we have the 90s, and with the exception of the Monica Lewinsky scandal, granted, there's a lot of groundwork being laid for things that would hurt us in radio with the deregulation and stuff, but a peaceful time. And then 9/11 happens. What did, in your dad being so involved in news and everything, what did it do to you? What happened with you? Do you have any memories of?
I do. I think that it was the first time when I realized that people who were anti-U.S. literally hijacked planes to fly into buildings to kill people. And I don't think something like that had ever been done before. And then it became this the creation and the rise of Homeland Security and, no longer being able to go through the airport and, pack things in your bag that people would never know about because they started really going through all your stuff. But I still think that I was living in this fantasy world of I want to be in the entertainment business. I want to be in rock and roll. I want to be in radio. And it didn't last for very long after that.
After that, changed things. I wonder, when I grew up, her dad is Peter Boyles, who's this major radio figure here in Denver. And one of my first conscious moments of your dad, or became conscious of his presence, is when he was on Good Morning America after he rode the luggage thing at DIA. And that was mid-90s, maybe. Mm-hmm. Did 9/11 and that political atmosphere change who he was on the air and maybe affect you at all? Or I don't know, was he I just remember him being more playful than political, but granted, my head wasn't really political in the 90s. So.
He's always playful, but then he's such a the man just cannibalizes books and has this photographic memory. And so when he would speak about history or have someone on, it would get serious. And I think that his knowledge of history of the Middle East and, other nations that are not friendly towards America, it was easy for him to kind of start to put it together. And then, of course, that unfortunate event built the case for George Bush to lie about why the war began in the Middle East, the second Gulf War.
Yeah.
And I think that my dad was always, because he's always said, there's no one he hates more than George W.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I think Trump eclipses maybe some of the most egregious things that have happened in our history.
For sure.
It was with George W. Bush. My brother went back to Iraq, and my mom and I, at that time, my mom was living with me, and we actually started a political organization to run radio ads against his campaign. And of course, he would just get crushed by Kerry, and he would just crush Kerry. But it was that was hard to see that we were doing that again. That we were doing it at all, and that the country was what I think what a preview of things to come, that the country could be so ignorant.
Well, and I think a lot of people, and we grew up in the 70s and 80s, and so I can remember being in first grade, seeing the footage of when the assassination attempt happened to Reagan,
right?
And then going back to 9/11 and then the second Gulf War. What I think a lot of people also have to remember is that George Bush's father, the HW, he was the head of the CIA for 50 years. Mm-hmm. He was Ronald Reagan's vice president, and then he became president.
Yeah.
So all of these things that the United States has done and that the CIA has done around the world are just staggering. And you can read about them, and through the Freedom of Information Act, more and more information is coming forward. But they were not good people.
No.
They did horrible things.
Yeah.
And
it seemed to all come to a head with 9/11.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a hard time. I was in the Springs, and I just was not politically aligned with a lot of people in the Springs. But that's when I woke up to the fact that, I took a lot of heat when I was on the air there, and people threatening me, an actual cop threatening me.
Scary.
Yeah, but then people started coming out and standing up for me, and that's when I realized, oh my gosh, how dumb we are on this station to try to capture the biggest portion of the whole pie, when we could just focus on 30% of that pie and own that 30% instead of getting 2% of the whole thing. And it worked. It started to work, and it was terrible. It was a terrible, terrible, painful time of blind patriotism, but it was also a wide eye-opening experience getting emails from, say, there was a guy who worked at a convenience store. He was Egyptian, and just saying, I'm so happy that you're saying some of these things. I was on a music station. I had no business being.
But how great that you were able to because that to me is a validator. If you're hearing from people from Egypt and they're like thanking you for straightening out this insane amount of conservative Republican people in the Springs that love focus on the family, then I'd say you did a great job.
When I bring it up, not for me, I bring it up to ask a question about you. You're on the other side of Alice Cooper. You're on the other side of maybe radio, right?
Yeah.
Where do you want to go, and where do you end up?
I think I always wanted to be, because live concerts and being in that whole world, being a part of the business that goes on behind live concerts is one of the joys of my life. And so I was clinging on trying to stay in that, but it was like my roles were turning into like account executive or, business development and that kind of thing.
They need someone to sell ads. They need someone to
yeah. And I was horrible at sales. Like, I'm a great people person, but picking up phones and making cold calls, no.
Oh, girl, I had to go through that. Those were the saddest times of my life.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. And I should just be clear. I'm not picking on people who do that, because you're my hero. Like, if you can pull that off and not Thelma and Louise yourself into a ravine.
Right. 100 calls a day. If you can do that, you are my hero.
Yeah. And I know radio salespeople that have just owned this big, fat Denver market, and they've done it for 20 years, and they have no idea why I have reservations about it. I'm like, I'm not as tough as you, okay? I'm thin. I'm just freaking taffeta or something, crepe paper. I don't know. Okay, so do you eat? Okay, I think I just wanted to build. When I was getting married,
your mom was living with you guys.
Mom moved in, and I really liked what was happening. I feel like the one thing that I really am sad about is my radio career. The wheels start to come off, but I'm getting to take care of my mom. But I'm seeing you through this lens of like the perfect urban existence. I really am when occasionally we'd get in touch and I'd go to a party and you were there, I'm like, oh, I'm finally living. I felt like being within your umbra was evidence that I still had it. And we could go and meet new people and drink out of keg cups like it was 1996, and I don't know, it felt good.
It did. Yeah. It felt really good. And I was at your wedding, and I remember coming to your house, and it was before you started having kids, and your mom was living with you. And I remember being so touched, thinking, wow, Jared's new wife is so gracious so sweet and the best, because not only has she married Jared, but Jared's mother, who was terminal, they moved her in. And like, for a new bride, not that I know, but I'd imagine that could be a little daunting, but she loved your mom and you both took such great care of her.
Well, my wife went through at that time, like, all our moving and transitions, and we bought, a millennial punch me in the face for saying this, because I know what they're going through to buy homes, but neither of us had a job, and they gave us $250,000 to buy a house. It's crazy. Like, we were like, no, don't. No, we were telling him, like, no, back off. That's way too much. But, so everything's kind of falling into place as far as like domesticity and things. And I won't get into it too much. That'll be my episode. But our wedding was the end of my parents' marriage.
Yeah.
And that next day I couldn't believe it. And it's like I'm asking you these questions about these steps you're taking, stepping out of one version of you and into another. And that was very clear in my mind. I think that happens a lot. That's a very stark thing that happens in your 20s.
Yeah, and I mean, I think at the time that was what was happening, and I was so devastated, but not knowing that 10 years in the future, it was going to happen on such a epic, colossal level
Right.
that it would just knock me on my ass. So it was like the boot camp before the real thing.
No, I know, and I actually think we should probably end here and just tease
Okay.
episode three,
Three.
which
Right.
will be Shannon.
So I'm going to be all the
Extracted.
odds, and you're going to be all the evens.
And there was no edits. Nobody wants to edit anything here.
Not yet.
Okay. All right, that's good.
Game on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the one thing I haven't gotten to, and I can or cannot. You know what? We'll start episode 3. I want to know about your love life in this time, because I know there was one.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
I think
I
we're
won't say
teasing.
anything.
We're teasing.
We're
pros. This is
teasing.
what we do. We tease.
We're teasing.
We got a commercial break. We'll be on the other side. Weather on the tens. So, okay. This has been good. This is good. Are you happy
good.
with what's happened so far?
Yeah, totally
good.
happy.
Yeah. You're going to get a lot of questions like that from me because
I like it.
a doubt of insecurity. I just, I don't know how many times I've pushed out a product and then everybody's like, I'm like, dude, you could have told me at the beginning,
And plus, it sets the stage.
Yeah, we just did some stage setting.
Now, do you want to do episode 2 and start yours?
I can't time wise.
Yeah, I know. We're out of time.
And I think, to be fair, I think this is going to be about 30 minutes. I think we'll just try to keep them all 30 minutes.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Which I did a podcast once, which did pretty well. My buddy Aaron, who co-hosted, we made it 28 minutes each time because that's the average commute in Denver.
Oh, wow.
But yeah. So we're there. I don't know. We're doing something right.
Yeah.
It feels like it.
It feels good.
This has been Shannon Boyles Extracted, episode 1. No one won or lost any points in the gamified version of editing because it is raw.
Yeah.
And real.
Yeah. Unscripted.
Oh, that's good. That's a good stop. Let me use it now.